Hello, hello. I have no idea if I'm still in the right live stream link, maybe the right word? Hello, Frey. I see Frey here. Hello, Frey. Can you hear me? Frey can hear me. I think my dongle is broken. That must be what's up. The good news is I ordered some new cables today, so excuse me. So we should be getting this fixed up soon. Until then, unfortunately, it's just a photo of my face on screen. Devastating. Absolutely devastating. Alright, let's post this link in the Discord here. Let's go to my big face. Even though the picture of me in the corner does kind of crack me up. Alright, if someone could do me a favor, if there's anyone still in that other YouTube live stream chat, I imagine it's closed, so I guess that's not a big deal. Let them know. I posted a link in the Discord, though. Let me see. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I got another laptop dongle out here. Also, real talk, who came up with the word dongle? Fire that guy. Alright, well, anyways, we'll hope some new cables fix it when they come back. We were talking about Save the Cat as a beat sheet. Who was asking about Save the Cat? That was Dreams Realms, right? So, anyways, long story short, Save the Cat is just a very detailed plot framework, and to me, the big value is that it also has progress percentages, maybe for the right word, with all of these different acts and sequences and story beats. And so when you're planning your story, when you're writing a story, you kind of know exactly how many words to play with when, you know, and it's versatile because it's done percentage wise. So whether you're writing a 50,000 word story or 150,000 words, it scales with your story. I think that's valuable. It kind of makes sure that you're staying on pace, no matter how verbose you are, no matter how like detailed you are in your writing, or if you're meandering through things. If you know that you're still hitting your midpoint at 50% of your novel, then like you're kind of on the right pace. So that's Save the Cat. Definitely, I'm trying to remember if I have a video on Save the Cat or not. I think it's a part of a much bigger video I did where I looked at like 9 different plot frameworks. But there's a lot of good stuff on YouTube about it and tons of information online. I think it's fun to play around with. I think I'm going to be using this as a beat sheet after I get my initial sort of stuff down. Dixie9 says, possibly a corruption of the word dangle since the devices dangle from ports. Yeah, I think that's fair. Also, still though, fire the guy who came up with the word dongle. And if his name's Don, and he was like, what if we put my name in the word dangle? Double fire him. Double fire him. All right, hold on. We got one other thing I can try for the camera. Let's see this. Put you in this other dongle I'm using on this side. It says I'm on standby. Hold on, let me say that again. You didn't hear me. Just when you thought I was out, I'm back in! Yeah, I don't have my laptop mic hooked up on this other screen. I can see, I cannot hear. I'm back. Alright, I'll put my microphone on this other one. We're so back. All right, now here's a question for you. How does this audio compare to like this big old microphone that I use? Because it's not like going right now. So does it sound any different at all? I imagine you get more room noise, and I try to be careful about like tapping on my table. Different but fine. Nice. Hey, all right. Honestly, that's kind of impressive. Running the streaming software on my computer, though, every now and then the fan in my laptop is like, breathe, please. Lantern Valley says, was out shopping, bought a ghost pepper, never tried one before, should be fun. I have a feeling the chat is going to experience a very different side of Lantern Valley if you eat that ghost pepper in the next hour or two. All right, anyways. All of that, you know, we were talking about. The big thing was it's time to do some planning and time to, for me at least, to work on some plot stuff. Need aluminum plate under the laptop. Interesting. A little bit of sound insulation, maybe. Pull you over here. All right, let's use our fancy new timer and do some dedicated writing time or work time. 25 minutes on the clock. Where's my thing? Here we go. Does it look pretty? It thinks for a bit and then it does. All right, 25 minutes. Let's do it. I'm going to do some work, and I'll talk to you guys when the timer goes off. I'll turn the music up. Let's do it. All right, our sprint is over. Look at that. Let's nudge this guy over here a bit. All right, made some good progress. Let's hide this bad boy. All right. So, man, I'm sitting here trying to figure out the plot for this. And, like, you know, I got a lot of things going on in my head. But I'm trying to put something down on paper so that I have something to reference and that I have something to edit. Right? As of right now, it's just like a bunch of spaghetti in my head. All these plot lines and inspiration and ideas for scenes. And it's like trying to run a comb through spaghetti and straighten them all out. So I just got to get some narrative threads down. So then I can start to think about what's missing. Does this reflect really the story I want to tell? Things like that. I'm really pulling from a lot of like... do we have anyone here who's seen the movie The Goonies? I know, what an underground cult classic. What an avant-garde movie that no one's ever heard of before. Has anyone here seen The Goonies? I'm really trying to pull from a lot of the vibes of The Goonies, which, if you haven't seen it, is a pretty great, you know, Spielberg classic. Kid characters. It's about growing up. The world feels a little bit more magical than, and you don't know if that's just because you're experiencing it through the eyes of a kid, or is the world actually like that. It's kind of what I'm like. I'm pulling from a lot of the feelings that I get from watching movies like The Goonies, and that's kind of what I'm trying to put in and inject into this story. And right now, I'm not super thrilled about some of the decisions I've made, but in my head, it's given me enough direction that when I'm writing it, I think I can represent all of the different, you know, energies, vibes, narrative threads that I want to represent. So everything that I'm writing down here, I just know there's so much more behind the scenes than what's actually written down here. I just need something to keep me on track. How's it going with everyone else's stories, plannings, writings? Also, Laura versus the Page. Hello, I don't know if I've seen you around before. Glad to have you. For those who haven't seen The Goonies, first of all, you definitely should, because it's got Samwise Gamgee. It's got Thanos in it. It's got that, the kid who would grow up to be in Everything Everywhere All at Once. I mean, just a star-studded cast. Corey Feldman? Is that his name? Rock star of our generation. Musical genius. Who else is in there? I think that's all I remember. It's a good one. Still holds up. Also, Kaylee, you found out how to do the tables in Scrivener. Yeah, you know, you said you were looking to set up a spreadsheet. Scrivener's table options are going to be more akin to like a Google Docs kind of thing, like pretty rudimentary. You can change the size of columns, you can merge and split things, you can color them, so it's not like, it's not great, but you can get a table. And I like this. But I will say, something I'm picking up in doing this planning here in this table that I put in, it really makes me miss the energy that comes with planning a story when you just have like a whiteboard and you're just going all over the place with ideas and characters and how you want people to be, and like, oh, this scene would be so cool. And I'm kind of starting to miss the free form planning, which is something I said I would do in my next writing project. So maybe before I actually start writing next week, maybe that's what I need to do. I use PureRef as a whiteboard. PureRef, one of the great open source programs. Super awesome. Love me some PureRef. Loose paper and junk is the best. Shout out junk. Or Bagel, we may be able to turn off autocorrect in your system settings, even if you're on mobile. Kaylee coming in hot with the helpful suggestions. I love it. I would like to get. I think I'm gonna try some advanced Scrivener moves here. I don't know if everyone knows this, but whenever you start a new project from Scrivener, the very first thing you get to choose from are, do you want to start with an existing template? And there's a Save the Cat template. I'm wondering if I can cheat a little bit and steal some folder formatting from the Save the Cat template and somehow get it back into my other project. Oh, also, we were talking about Save the Cat before. Here is, let's see if we can, from Savannah Gilbo. Love me some Savannah Gilbo. Here's all of our percentage values we were talking about with Save the Cat. So your catalyst should happen 10% into your total word count. Break into 2 should happen 20%. You should kick off your B story 22% of your story in. Let's see now. How can I steal some of this? This is just a 15,000 word story. I guess that's it. Okay. It would be nice if I could copy to project to, let's go. Can I not do this because it's currently open? What's happening? Are all of these open? How many Scrivener oh my god. How many Scrivener projects does one person need to have open at the same time? Good lord. I think I can exit out of Upon Careless Gray Hills. War Bagel says did 145 words. Love it, love it. Spitballing for a character. Power scaling, love that. Sounds like fun. Where'd you get a Save the Cat template? It looks like I got it from Savannah Gilbo's website, who does the podcast. Oh, shoot, what's her podcast? It's probably my favorite writing podcast. But I haven't listened to it in like a year. Oh, Savannah Gilbo. Making me look bad on stream because I can't remember your podcast. Google Savannah Gilbo. You'll find it. Marcos. Hello, Marcos. Do you use Scrivener to write or just to organize everything? Scrivener is my, like, from start to finish, I am in Scrivener doing my entire project. So there are other tools I've found helpful. Things like Pure Ref, which we were just talking about in chat, which is a really good tool for like getting a mood board and organizing images and vibes and notes and stuff like that. And it kind of gives you complete freeform to plan like that. But Scrivener is kind of like my perfect writing tool. Yeah, good luck finding the Save the Cat template. It's on Savannah Gilbo's website somewhere. That must be where I got it. There's other templates that come standard in Scrivener too, as well. Things like, I think there's like a romance one. What else is in here? Novel with parts, Save the Cat. The story grid, I can't remember if that was one I downloaded or if it also came with Scrivener. These are all the fiction templates, and then there's more things like if you're writing an RPG campaign, if you're writing for a script, which changes all the formatting. If you're writing nonfiction, like for school or for school. And then, yeah, fiction. And then I think I downloaded this one online as well. The romance template. Really hard to find Scrivener templates online. Kaylee, it may be best if you were to Google Save the Cat Scrivener template, because it may be that someone else made it, but then they ended up referencing the web page that Savannah Gilbo has for Save the Cat and just embedded that in there. Now, to me, I'm thinking, if I'm Savannah Gilbo and I didn't make the template and my web page is in there, hey, that's pretty great. But that's why I thought it might come from her. I made the dubious decision to finally get a laptop, so I might actually be able to do all the cool PC things. There you go. Now, I am on Mac, so heads up. But all the software it's there for multiple platforms. How do I get these folders? Copy to project. I want to copy it here, but I can't select it here. Why would that be? Let's select something else. Okay. I can work with this. Alright, we can make it work. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to make... Hey, Marcos, you might like this. This is why I'm using... This is why I use Scrivener for everything. Because I just found out, right? I can just go down here and let's make a new folder. I'll put it under notes, but then I'll probably move it somewhere else. Save the Cat plots. Right? So this is going to be my plot framework for Save the Cat. Maybe I'll move it right on up here. Let's go in here and why don't we change the icon? Where are my cats at? There's got to be a cat somewhere in here, right? Icon from text. What? What's this going to do? Oh, we've unlocked emojis, fam. Oh, he can't be stopped. Scrivener God. The Scrivener God. Look at that. All right, so now I have the Save the Cat plot framework in my project here. And what I want is I want to go to this other Save the Cat project that I had here as this template, and it has everything already sort of organized by... I'll show you what I mean. Hold on. Now let's copy to project Gnome Camp, Save the Cat plot. I'll be thrilled if it works. Let's go! Sorry, Bailey. My dog did not like that. Look at that. Okay, so this doesn't look like anything, right? It just looks like a blank page. Here's why that was good, all right? So if I look at the Save the Cat plots, and I look at this in the outline view, that's using these little toggles up here. You have what are called scrivenings, which appends everything you've selected into one document. So you read, you can edit your things, you can scroll through your whole story. We have the corkboard, which mine doesn't look much like a corkboard, but if you really wanted it to, you can organize things, stacks of note cards, you could put them on different timelines, you could put them into, hold on. You can change their size. I guess that part's not super impressive, but anyways, if you go into the outline view, you can see that specifically there's this total target column. And so, for a story that is, let's calculate all these word counts. We have, 31. This is like, if you were writing a 64,000 word story, I guess, is what these might all add up roughly to. The person who made this template has told you, in order to follow the Save the Cat plot, which says By the time you get to the catalyst, you should be 10% through your story. By the time you hit the break into 2 scene beat, you should be this far into your story. They've already put in the numbers for you. So, for example, if I'm writing a I don't know why they chose like a 64,000 word story. A 64,000 word story, I have, 700, hold on. My math teachers told me I would never have a calculator with me when I was doing math, but little did they know, I have an Apple. 3,500 plus 1,000. Oh God, did I do that right? Plus 7,000. So, according to these numbers, I feel like I would get lost learning Scrivener for a year instead of writing. Good news, in about 2 weeks, I have a Scrivener tutorial video coming out. So, I promise. You don't need a full year. You just need the 11 minutes it takes to get through that video and like it and subscribe. So, according to this template, by the time I get into the break into 2 scene, I should be 15,000 words into my story. If I'm writing a 64,000 word story. So that's the value of the Save the Cat plot framework, is that it just helps you put these number values on certain story beats. And look, maybe you hit those numbers, maybe you write too much and you don't. But I can tell if I'm going to be too verbose in one section. Maybe that means I need to start to speed things along. Maybe I need to organize my story a little differently. Because if I am following Save the Cat and I am getting to this break into 2 scene, which is where we end Act 1 and we're moving into Act 2, and I know that I'm about to hit 15,000 words, and I can feel pretty comfortable that I'm on pace. I'm not spending too long in the setup of my story. I'm not spending too long trying to build the world. Like, the story is happening. So, anyways. That's cool. Are you in Alaska right now? I am not. I'm in Wisconsin. I live in Wisconsin. The trip to Alaska was just for that video. But I do love Alaska. I tried to move to Alaska, and then I ended up here in Wisconsin. So close yet so far. Is there anything else I need to grab from this other Scrivener thing? I guess I can grab all of this. Maybe I'll also copy that. There's just a button to copy it again? Interesting. So now, let's go. So by copying this over, now I have just more detail around each one of these things. The first act should be 25% of the overall length of the story. If the project target is 70,000 words, then the first act should be roughly 5,000 words? Holy moly! How embarrassing. Someone made a typo. Couldn't be me. Okay. I'll help them out. There we go. Kaylee says, Wisconsin's winters average colder than Alaska, actually. Especially if you're just looking at, Anchorage, the Kenai Peninsula, which is where we tried to move before we ended up settling on Wisconsin. Our area in Wisconsin does get colder than Alaska, which is wild to me. All right, pretty cool. So I think I'm probably going to end up filling most of this out probably over the weekend. But I'm going to be taking everything that I've made here, even though it's not completely filled out, for my story. And look, I'm only doing the Save the Cat thing because as I was looking at these other plot frameworks today, and at different kind of beat sheets, And while I was looking at Save the Cat, I was like, you know what? I think the story that I have in my head is kind of following that same trajectory. I don't think Save the Cat is applicable to every story, and I don't think you should try to fit your story into Save the Cat if you're not thinking about it already like that. But for me, yeah, I think it's going to work. For those who are asking about the Scrivener template project, I can't remember if Kaylee said they found it. Found someone else's free Save the Cat template. That may be where I got mine, but I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing this template because it was created by someone else, and maybe that's a really cool part of their marketing plan for getting their author name out there. So hopefully the one you found online for free is the right one. All right, hold on. Let me fix my... There we go. Make sure everyone can still hear me. Love that. All right, what were we talking about with power creep or power scaling? Phantom said, power scaling is actually an interesting process. Sure, you can say X character is Y powerful, but then you also have to take factors like the story into account and character information. So, power scaling. I think this is interesting, and I know I'm a little late to the party, Phantom. But one of my favorite things that I learned, and I can't remember what book it was from, but it's a lesson I took from a book that I was reading. I was like, wow, this was genius that the author did this. It was the fact that other characters' reaction to your character says a lot to the reader. And so I think a really cool and interesting and fun way to show the increase of power for a character is simply in how other people treat that character. Like, first off, an absolutely great power scaling example, maybe. There's a book series. It's all really short books. Every book is like 120 pages by Will White. Is that what his name was? I think so. It's called the Cradle series. We're talking about power scaling, Willow. Hello, welcome. So the Cradle series is I guess they would call it progression fantasy, which is a genre completely built around how fun it can be to watch a character scale in their power and get stronger and stronger, right? So maybe it had been something in that series that really stood out to me. And then a trick that I use in at least in not Will Wright, Will White. A trick that I learned that I have used in some stories that I've drafted out, but I haven't yet like really dove into like try to share them with the world, is I love the idea of putting my characters up against some sort of conflict early in the story and have them barely escape with their lives, and then later on in the story put them up against the same sort of challenge, have them be extremely weak, but like really like put them in a very similar scenario so that the reader knows, one, this is dangerous. I've already seen my character fail at this. Number two, they're in an even worse situation. Maybe now they're outnumbered by the zombies instead of one-on-one. And number three, ideally that they are injured. There's a lot of stuff on the line. And then you have to watch them try to succeed. And that's where you can see them really get stronger in their decisions and their power. And everything's put in the context that the reader's like, whoa, that's cool. Will Walter White Wright. How do you do it? I like power scaling. Lit RPG and progression fantasy, two really fun genres of stories. The opening of One Piece like that, exactly. Anime, especially all those Shogun, is that what they're called? Shogun animes? Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, what are some other ones? Maybe those are the four I can think of off the top of my head. Almost exists just to let you follow that character get stronger. I said Shogun. Shonen, yes. Thank you, War Bagel. Yeah, I'm pretty well versed in the animes. No big deal. I read a lot of mangas. Personal favorite, My Hero Academia. Another great example. Do we have any anime watchers in chat? What, you guys didn't like my pronunciation of mangas? Any anime fans in here? Well, I think most animes are best watched dubbed in English. I think you get a lot more of the meaning of the original authors once someone comes in there and actually puts words to the animes. I think my favorite anime. I think if I had to choose one, I think my favorite anime. This is so hard. That's a tough one. Maybe like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's a pretty good one. I thought Rick and Morty was the best anime to come out in the past decade. Like, wow. What revolutionary animation, storytelling. I know some people say Rick and Morty is an anime, but I mean, it kind of is. It's just authentic. I think, hold on. What other rage baiting can I say? Honestly, one of my favorite animes, Avatar: The Last Airbender. Dude, they nailed it. Just the fact that like it was just so succinct and well done. I mean, they didn't even need to make a second movie. I think once you just nail it on the first try, you don't even need to make a second movie for it. We are presently watching a couple of cuckoos. What the heck? Oh, man. I do not watch much anime. But I'm getting around to it. I think I just say, okay, War Bagel, you say, if you really want to rage bait, say, Yuma Sumain Pretty Derby is the greatest anime. Yuma Sumain is a great anime. He almost said it correctly. Fixed it at the last minute. I accidentally succeeded. I almost rolled a passing check, and I knocked the dice off the table. All right. I will get around to watching some anime. I think I'd like to explore that different style. Like, I've watched my fair share of 20-something episodes of One Piece. Pretty much the whole... Once you've seen them, the first 20, you've seen them all. They could have stopped after 20, honestly. How many more are there? It's like one more season, right? One more season of One Piece? That's why they call it One Piece. I have watched plenty of the Studio Ghibli. I think I remember growing up and thinking Bleach looked super cool. So I think I'm going to watch some Bleach. I think my favorite anime is Star Wars, The Clone Wars. That's a good one. That's what I should have used before. That's what I should have used. Bleach was super cool back in grade 7. See, that's the thing, is like, I learned about Bleach back then, and I was like, dang, Ichigo is so cool. Good night, Dreams Realm. It's like, wow, Ichigo's so cool. Look at him. Wow. And then now I look back and I don't know anything about Bleach, but I remember how cool I thought it was. And I think I saw the first couple episodes on like Adult Swim back in the day. Back in the day. Oh man, got lots of work to do here. I think by the time we get to November, I'll probably have Act 1 and Act 2, half of Act 2 maybe, planned out, but we'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling about the finale here. I think I need to break out of the table to do some plotting. And do some freeform, pen and paper kind of... Stop. Pen and paper kind of planning. Kayla says I may have to rethink my writing schedule for November. Why do you say that, Kaylee? Rebecca says you were watching Adult Swimming. That's just weird. You can't bait me like that. You can't bait me. I'm doing last November, I did 40 hours of live streams, and I think that probably came out to like 20-something hours of dedicated writing time. And I think this year, I'm doing 60 hours of live streams. I'm wondering what that number is gonna creep up to. How many hours of writing am I gonna do? How many words? I'm nervous, but I'm excited. It is a little nerve-wracking going into being like, all right, every weekday for the next month, you're gonna be sitting in this little room on camera writing. That can be a little, you get through 15 of these live streams, and at the end you're like, oh God, here we go again. Let's get on down there. Kaylee says, rethinking my schedule specifically because your live stream starts exactly when I usually start cooking dinner, and my kids will not handle having their dinner 2 hours later every day. That's brutal. Now, look, of course, I love having you in the live streams. I get that the life happens. If you have the chance to join that earlier 1 hour writing live stream with Pro Writing Aid, we can still write together. And then you always have the option, if you do want to write to the live streams, to do it after the fact, but I know that's not nearly as fun. I know. War Bagel says, the Pro Writing Aid streams are sprints or talking about the app. War Bagel and Pro Writing Aid is doing their own Novella November called Nov Nov. And all throughout. There's like they got a ton of stuff going on. They have like New York Times best-selling authors leading writing sprints, leading Q&As. I'll be interviewing a thriller novelist named Graham. Oh, what's his last name? Barnett? What is it? Graham Bartlett? Is that what it is? Yeah, Graham Bartlett. There it is. Who is a former police officer in the UK who now serves as a consultant to like TV shows and other, fiction writers who are writing about the police kind of story, where he can talk and help guide them to make sure it's realistic. I think that's pretty cool. So War Bagel, yeah, they're all throughout November. Every single weekday, I'll be doing a 1 hour writing sprint earlier in the day, and then I'll be doing this for 2 hours at this time slot that you've seen here. So that's 3 total hours of live streams every weekday. So I am doing some streams over there. If you head over into the Discord, I have the schedule and links in the Novella November section. You can see it there. Kaylee says some of their streams are informational webinars about all aspects of writing, and others are writing sprints. Yeah, sometimes they'll have like a guest who comes in and just, kind of talks about certain things. Sometimes they have interviews, but every single weekday they will have writing sprints going. So if this time slot doesn't work for you, there is also an earlier time slot as well. Should be able to join the Pro Writing Aid sprints with you at least. There you go. Also, War Bagel, if you do want to join the Pro Writing Aid thing, it's totally free. You can Google Pro Writing Aid, Novella November. There's a little sign up there. You get badges for keeping track of your writing progress. You get to see all the events. It's all free. Are you doing the sprints at 5 p.m. Eastern? I am doing the sprints at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is 1 hour different. So I think it's 7 Eastern. I think if I'm remembering correctly, the time zone stuff, I think I'm starting these sprints at 7 p.m. Eastern, and I'm starting the Pro Writing Aid ones. I think there was a little bit of a scheduling change. It was going to be 4 p.m. Central, which would be 5, but it's actually at 3 p.m. Central, which now means it's at 4 p.m. Eastern. So the Pro Writing Aid streams are at 4 p.m. Eastern. Whew! Dude, I hate time zones. Who came up with that? Why don't we all just call it... Why don't we have 100 hours a day and we're all on the same hour? I can't see a single problem with that. All right. Rage baiting again. That's not my style. You think I rage bait? I want to know how that would work, Carson. Simply, we just all agree to do something at 50 o'clock. Easy. This TV show goes on at 50 o'clock. Love it. Who came up with that? What in the world? Oh, yeah, sad. I will be here again. We're doing the same live stream tomorrow. Probably going to try to get some more dedicated writer time than today. The tech issues kind of threw me off a bit. So Kenneth, if you can join tomorrow, I'll see you then. UTC exists. What is the, there's some sort of, what genre do you write in? My first book was a cozy fantasy. It's chill. My second book, that's in its third draft right now, is a murder thriller. And the story I'm planning to do some writing in November is another cozy fantasy. So I would just say it's character-driven, interesting stories. All right, you know, Bailey, come here. You want to come say hi? Okay. Since we are kind of wrapping up here and there's very little writing left to do, me and Bailey might wrap up the live stream here in a couple minutes and I'll go feed her. Media says, how many genres do you plan to write all together? And honestly, the question is, I plan to explore writing in a bunch of different genres. I'm going to be writing, and this goes for I think most everyone here, and I would recommend you can at least consider it in this way. I love reading fantasy and science fiction. That's kind of the most of what I read. But I kind of want to write in a little bit of every genre to figure out what I really want to focus on. So before I say I'm only going to write science fiction or only going to write fantasy, I'm going to go through and try a bunch of different things and see what feels most exciting myself. So like that may be thrillers, fantasy, science fiction. This may be, I don't know, romance one day. Who knows? But yeah, explore. Akina says, what are the third and second columns of your plot framework in here? This is storyline A and storyline B. Let me share my screen here. Storyline A, to put it succinctly, are the events of your story, right? The plot. What happens in your book from start to end? What are all these big moments that we go through so that Frodo decides to take the ring to throwing it in the volcano in Mordor, right? That's storyline A. So I'm going through here and I'm saying, here's what's going to happen in my story. But storyline B, this is a term you're going to come across in some writing books. Storyline B is sort of the emotional journey of your character and the change that they go through. You don't want that change to just happen like that, right? And you also don't want your character to change in a way that doesn't feel like it's meant to be in the novel, right? You kind of want to align the conflict your character goes through with the conflict of the plot. So storyline B, this is when I'm putting in these big emotional moments of what the character feels at certain times. What are you doing? Lay down. So this is me kind of planning out what are big moments that my character needs to feel emotionally that's slowly going to take him through the change he needs to be by the end of the novel. So storyline A, storyline B. Does every scene have to have an inciting incident, crisis, turn, climax, and resolution? The story grid by Sean Coyne would suggest that. And I think that does make for a pretty efficient story. But also at the same time, when you're writing, you're going to feel these kind of things out. So in here, I am organizing things like Act 1 to have an inciting incident and a crisis and a turn and a climax and a resolution. And Act 2 to have 3 sections that all go through that. I think in a perfect world, that may be the case. But also I think when this is more of editing advice than it is writing advice. Write your story in whatever way that gets the words down on the page, in whatever way helps you finish that story. And when you're editing, you can use the idea of every scene needs to have an inciting incident, a crisis, turn, climax, resolution, to look at your scenes and basically justify whether they need to exist or not. Does this scene do enough, right? Or does it not have an inciting incident? Does it not have a crisis or a turn or climax? Is it just there not doing or pulling enough weight? And then that's when you can use this as editing advice. Kaylee says, I watched a whole webinar about this scene structure and I still don't understand the turnaround beat of it. Okay, so I can help a little bit with that, but I also agree that the idea of the turn is kind of a weird one. Because in my head, the turn and the climax tend to be very similar. So the way that... I'm looking at some of my writing books over here, trying to jog my memory. The way that I think I remember it, Kaylee, is that the inciting incident is what kicks off the action or whatever needs to happen next. The crisis is the main struggle of the scene, like understanding and seeing the ramifications of what needs to change and why something needs to change. The turn, if I'm remembering correctly, disclaimer, if I'm remembering correctly, is like when your understanding of things change. Does that sound right? I'm doubting myself now. Like a twist, a complication maybe. And then the climax is everything coming to a head. Typically something that's exciting, and then the resolution. But you know, the turn is one of those... Here's my... Okay, look. I'm not going to go on the whole rant, but I very well could. Is that I feel like almost every plot framework tries to introduce some sort of term that isn't in other plot frameworks to like set itself apart. And this approach, I think, kind of is like that. It's like someone was like, okay, if we just say inciting incident, crisis, climax, and resolution, there's other plot frameworks that do that. That would be too easy. We need something proprietary. And then they were like, let's introduce the term. I would have to look back at my my video on the story grid, because I think that's where it comes from, to refresh my memory on exactly how they define it. But I think the turn is like a very specific moment of like things are changing, and then the climax is what happens following that as conflict arises. So if I had to guess, like in Lord of the Rings, when Frodo is getting ready to throw the ring into the mountain, and Sam's like, yeah, we did it, throw it in the lava, Frodo. I think that's the direct quote. And then he decides not to. The turn is, this is how I would frame it in my head. The turn is when he's like, no. And then the climax of that whole scene is not that moment where he says no, but the big fight that happens afterwards over the ring, and that's the big climax of the scene. So that's how I frame it in my head, kind of what I would imagine as the turn. But also, it's a kind of a pet peeve of mine that with all these different plot frameworks that we read about and want to use and want to learn about, there's always some little proprietary thing in there that's just one strange thing you have to learn that's not shared in any other plot frameworks. I was told to go with the complication, and those would lead to the turnaround. I invented the idea of inventing things, see? War Bagel says, what do you do with the campfire scene? What is the inciting incident there? War Bagel, what do you mean the campfire scene? You just mean characters talking? Like as if they were around a campfire? That's quite the intervention. 59, we're going to have an intervention for you. Am I right? Alright, let's get to, if War Bagel's still here, let's get into this campfire scene thing. Because I think the question is, if I have a scene that's basically just my characters talking, how can I have an inciting incident and a crisis and a turn and a climax and a resolution? And if that's the case, you have to ask yourself, why does this scene exist? I don't need an intervention. I can quit anytime. It's a quiet moment where you have a rest, the soft beat, the social heavy moment. So you're asking like, if we're talking like something like a resolution, right? I would typically say like that kind of scene you're talking about would commonly be found in a resolution where we've just had a big moment of action and now we get to take that breather, that step away, and kind of refocus the novel. So, like, that's a good question. Do you need an inciting incident for that? Do you need a crisis? I think if you were to try hard, right, an inciting incident doesn't always need to mean like your main character's village has been swarmed by orcs and it's kicked off the rest of the quest. The inciting incident for a story could be that we just got past this big moment of action and like a conversation starts between our character who's just joined this other group of adventurers and them not quite trusting that character, and the conversation about like, you know, we just made it out there alive. Hey, you know, I noticed you were talking to those guards that then came and bothered us, right? That can still be, even though it's just a bunch of characters talking, like, that can still have an inciting incident and a crisis and a turn and climax and resolution. But honestly, in my opinion, at that point, especially for scenes like that, you're almost kind of you're kind of bending over backwards to meet this sort of framework. And I don't think that's a great way to approach it. I think that the idea that every scene should have these things is a good idea. But I think that there's plenty of room in your book for scenes of character development and talking where if there is an inciting incident, it's so low stakes and like minute that like it doesn't feel like an inciting incident. And in that case, you shouldn't try to change your story in any major way because this plot framework or because the story grid says you need these 5 elements. I think it's one of those things. It's kind of like, it's a nice thought, and you're going to do a lot of editing where maybe you can choose to refine things like that. But also, sometimes, we're just writing a scene where we have 2 characters that connect. You don't need to say, oh, the inciting incident is when our character introduced themselves to this new character. And then the crisis is them trying to figure out who the other person is. Like, that doesn't feel necessary. Like, you could try to fit things like power dynamics and the changing of the relationship of the characters as like inciting incidents and the climax and the resolution. But in my head, I don't do that. In fact, I just, as I'm writing, I'm like, there needs to be a moment where these characters connect in this way. I'm going to write that. And then the next scene, maybe that's when I'm ready to introduce that inciting incident, crisis, turn, climax, resolution. If it's Brits or Australians talking, you automatically have complications. Especially when you introduce the dry British humor. That makes complications. So, War Bagel, here's what I would say, is everything that you read about writing advice, for the most part, is editing advice. Just write. Stop thinking, start writing, get your story down. When you're looking back and trying to improve your story, this is sort of a guideline you can use to make sure that every scene feels justified, that you're not having a lot of scenes that don't carry importance because they don't have that inciting incident or something, but it's like, you know. I hope that makes sense. It's a nice thought to say every single scene has this thing, but in reality, sometimes you just have character moments, and it's harder to do that. All right, all that being said, I like talking about story stuff, so that was a really good question. I have a lot to fill out still left with my plot. I got 2 days to do it, maybe something over the weekend, and then on Monday, we're writing. It's happening. I'll be right here. I'll probably try to do something super fun on the first day, on that Monday of November, since we're only streaming on the weekends. But I'll figure out something super cool and fun we can do. If you remember last year, I started off Novella November with a guitar solo. You can find that back in day 1 of last year's Novella November. All right. I'm wrapping it up. I'm going to go feed the dogs. I hope you have a great rest of the night. Tomorrow, we're going to have more dedicated writing time than just hangout time. But also, I love when we get a chance to talk about questions, talk about plot frameworks, talk about character stuff. Maybe tomorrow would be a really good day to focus on character things. So if you have questions about writing characters, unique voice, dialogue, let me know tomorrow. Let me know tomorrow. Let the chaos begin. I like that. On Monday. We still got 2 more days. All right, take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. I'll see you all on the next time you get to join the live stream. I'll be here regardless. So take care, and I'm going to go feed the dogs. Goodbye. Wait, did I do it?